Are you feeling lost and frustrated with how complicated the US immigration system is? Well, today you're in luck. From work visas to green card to citizenship and more, I'm going to be explaining the requirements and challenges and benefits of each of these approaches so that you'll have a clear understanding of the path ahead and you will know how to maximize your chances of success. If you don't know me, my name is Josh Goldstein. I'm an immigration lawyer and I'm the founder of Immigration Station, this YouTube channel. This channel is a resource for you. Here, I share with you all of my insights, tricks, tools, tips, hacks, and other key information that you need to help you reach your immigration goal. So let's get right into it today. The 9 key immigration options for you to consider when you're looking to live or work in the United States. Option number 1, the diversity visa lottery, the DV lottery. The DV lottery, it sounds almost made up. The United States has a lottery system where we give out free green cards. There's no cost associated with this whatsoever. To be eligible to be selected for the lottery, you have to fill out an application online during a window that starts in the fall each year. It's an annual program. You can apply each year. There's an educational requirement. You have to be a graduate of high school or the equivalent. Also, you have to be from a country that's eligible to apply. It changes from year to year, so you have to check each year. Now, one of the objections I get from clients when I tell them to apply for the DV lottery, they're like, Josh, what are the chances I'm going to win the DV lottery? And the answer is, chances of winning are 0 if you don't fill out the application. You owe it to yourself to apply. Just do it. And if you get selected, we can help you reach your goal based on that selection. The second option is employer sponsorship. If you have a job offer, your employer can sponsor you to live or work in the United States. That could be a green card. Your employer could sponsor your green card through the employment-based immigration system by filing an I-140 and going through the PERM process. Maybe you just want to live in the United States and work here temporarily. Then you're looking at something like an H-1B visa, an L-1 visa, or an O-1 visa even. Whether it's a temporary work visa or you're looking to immigrate and get a green card, an employer could sponsor you to do this. The third option is what I call talent-based immigration. If you have achieved something great in your career, whether it's in business or academia or science or research, maybe you're a musician or an athlete or an entertainer or an influencer or a model, whatever it is, if you've done something really incredible with your career and you have a body of accomplishment to draw on, you're someone who really has excelled to an exceptional degree, there's a way you can get a green card without employer sponsorship, just by petitioning for yourself. I'll give you 2 specific options that go this approach. One is called the EB-1A. We've filed this application for professional athletes, coaches, scientists, etc., etc. The other way to do it is through something called EB-2 or the National Interest Waiver. The National Interest Waiver, it still requires you to have this exceptional ability, but there's an additional requirement, which is that your work must be in the national interest of the United States. Well, what does that mean? We're talking about something in science, maybe even culture and the arts could arguably be in the national interest of the United States. Sports might be. But these are 2 options to consider, the National Interest Waiver or EB-1A, when you want to sponsor yourself and not have to deal with employer sponsorship. The fourth way is through marriage, engagement, a fiancé visa. So first of all, we have the fiancé visa. If you're engaged to get married and your fiancé is a US citizen, your fiancé could file a petition for you, the I-129F, and at the end of this process, you'll have an interview at a consulate outside the US. You can get a visa that will allow you to come into the United States for the purposes of getting married and applying for a green card. On the other hand, you could just get married directly. And if you get married directly, then your spouse could petition for you through the marriage relationship. Now, this can come in 2 forms. Either your spouse is a US citizen or permanent resident, in which case you'll be filing a visa petition called the I-130. Or if your spouse is a refugee or asylee, they can file Form I-730. Whether it's U.S. citizen or permanent resident or asylee and refugee, marriage or fiancé-based immigration options are an important path to consider. The fifth path that you need to know, you can immigrate based on an investment. So there are two key paths to keep in mind here. One is EB-5. You can get a green card, an immigrant visa, through an investment that is substantial. You can invest in either a regional center, which is a passive approach, or you could do direct investment, where you're creating your own business. Either way, this requires probably $1 million of investment. This is a serious approach that requires a lot of capital, but if you have the resources and this is what you want to do, EB-5 is something to consider. What about if you want to get a temporary work visa to start a business and your means are far more limited? Consider the E2 visa. This is a valuable approach based on investment and business that you should consider. Number 6, citizenship. Now, I just wanted to mention that citizenship is a path, but it may not be something that you're keeping in mind because most people think of citizenship as naturalization. In other words, you have a green card and you've met all the requirements, and then you file Form N-400 and you change your status or you replace your permanent residency status with U.S. citizenship. So this is a path that already requires you to have at least permanent residency in the U.S. But if you were born in the U.S., then you already are a citizen. So that should be an obvious path forward. You can get a U.S. passport at a consulate abroad or even in the U.S. by going to the post office and showing them your birth certificate. The final way to do this is if you meet other requirements. For example, if your parents were both citizens at the time you were in the U.S. with a green card, you could derive citizenship directly from your circumstances. So citizenship, something to put on the table for you to consider. Number 7, a sibling petition. Your brother or sister can file a petition for you to get a green card. If you're a U.S. citizen, you can petition for your brother or sister. The problem is, it takes a really long time. How long? A long, long time. It takes so long that I call this the retirement visa, because if everything works out well, your brother or sister will be able to retire in the U.S. I tell people generally this approach could take 10 to 15 years. Depending on your country and where you're from and so on, it could take more than 20 years to get a green card through a petition filed by a sibling. Sometimes when people look at these processing times, they throw up their hands and they say, forget it, that's going to take too long. But guess what? Time goes on and you'll never have a chance to go back to the past and refile it. Why not take the moment to file that petition? It's sort of like buying insurance. You fill out the form, you file it, and that may give you the ability to live and work in the United States in the future. Don't skip this approach, but just keep in mind that it may take an incredibly long time. Number 8 is petitions by parents for children or children by parents. Let me explain what I mean. If you are a U.S. citizen, you can file a petition for your mother and/or your father. So your parents can come to the U.S. and immigrate and live in the U.S. On the other hand, if you're a parent and you want to help your child get immigration status, you can file a petition, an I-130 or an I-730, depending on whether you're a permanent resident, a citizen, or an asylee or refugee. Petitions for parents and parents applying for children is another important option. Number 9 is asylee or refugee status. How does this work? To apply for asylum, typically, you generally have to be in the United States. You seek asylum by showing that if you were to return to your home country, that you have a fear of being persecuted based on your race, religion, your ethnicity, your political opinion, or your membership in a particular social group. That's what asylum is. Refugee status is something quite different. If you're a refugee, you're typically designated by an organization like the Red Cross or the UN, and you're given a permission to come into the United States and you enter with refugee status. Asylee and refugee status is an important path for you to consider. If you're interested in learning about the latest developments in immigration law and how they could affect your options and your status, I have some exciting news for you. In this next video, I will be discussing 5 huge changes that are expected very soon in our immigration system. From policies to new laws and new procedures and changes, you will see how this is going to impact your options, your paths, your decision. So you really don't want to miss out on this exciting information.